right, welcome to Talk Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. This is a midweek update. I want to talk about what's happened in the first 3 days. Things are getting crazy. A lot of these stocks are having drastic moves to the upside and the downside, even intraday. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what I'm doing about it, and I want to talk about a plan that I think everybody should have. So we'll get to that later. I'm going to look at the Bitcoin chart. I'm going to look at what the Bitcoin miners have done over the last 3 days. And then I want to talk about something I'm calling the $1 billion club. I think this is important, so we're going to look at a bunch of stuff. I'll try and make this quick. If you enjoy this content, please consider hitting the subscribe button. We're striving towards 16,000 subscribers. We're getting very close. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed, and particularly the members. I want to give a shout out to. Let's talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Okay, I want to start here. This is the first 3 days of the week. This is a chart for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'm making this Thursday morning before the market opens. So far, it's a green day, but this is one of the things we're going to talk about. There have been wild fluctuations intraday. It's causing a lot of panic buying and a lot of panic selling. So let's take a look at the first 3 days so far. Stock ticker NE, which is company Sphere 3D, they have been one of the underperformers on the year this year. They're up 81% in the first 3 days of this week. Stock ticker MIGI, which is Mawson, is up 57% in the first 3 days this week. Those were two of the three worst performing Bitcoin mining stocks coming into this week. So you can see they have had a big run up, but there's more than that. Cypher, which is one of the larger market cap Bitcoin mining companies, they're up 47% this week. Core Scientific's up 34%. Marathon, which is the largest Bitcoin miner by market cap by far, is up 21% just this week. As always, you're going to see Bitcoin in gold here on this chart. So up 3%. Almost every single Bitcoin miner is performing equally or better, some significantly better than Bitcoin. This has been a trend over the last 6 weeks. We have been talking about this on the channel. And more importantly, for the 4 weeks before that, we were really talking about the fact that we thought this would turn around and the Bitcoin miners would start to outperform Bitcoin once again after about a 3.5 month period where the Bitcoin miners performed very poorly as stocks. So we've seen that play out going into the end of the year here. There are still 4 Bitcoin miners that were in the red in the first 3 days of the week, but I will say 2 of those, CleanSpark was down 1% and Bitfarms was down 8%. CleanSpark and Bitfarms have been by far the 2 best performing stocks of the Bitcoin miners over the last 2 months. They've both had over 200% run-ups. So for them to pull back a little bit this week is natural. In addition to that, Greenidge is down 4%. Now Greenidge is struggling. And then Iris Energy was down 8% as well. So the week is not over yet. There's still room to recover. In pre-market, all of these Bitcoin miners are very green, so we'll have to see by the time you're watching this, who knows where they'll be, because as I've said, a lot of these stocks have had intraday fluctuations of 15 or 20 or sometimes even 30%. Some of these stocks have started out green 10, 15% and ended the day red and vice versa, so a massive amount of volatility. We talk all the time about how these are highly volatile stocks. I mention that in every single video, and that is the reason why. It's weeks like this, it is very hard to watch your stocks go up and down. And, if you are micromanaging and looking at your portfolio 100 times a day, it can be brutal. And I understand it's very hard not to do that. But even if you're doing that, it's important to not make decisions based on that. So quickly, I just want to talk about the fact, the other thing we talk about all the time on the channel is you need to have a plan. When you own a stock, you need to have a strategy. You need to have an entrance point. You need to have an exit point. You need to understand what kind of time frame that you're looking at holding the stock for, when or if you plan on taking profits. And just because the stock is doing something on a given day doesn't mean you should break your plan. So this is all too many times how retail investors lose their money. They FOMO in when things are running up, even though that wasn't their plan, or they panic sell when things are moving down, even though that wasn't their plan. So I would just reiterate, whatever your plan is, and everybody's plan is going to be different, I think it's important that you guys try to stick to your plan, unless, of course, some of the underlying facts of the company have changed. So that's the most important part of your investing strategy, is what's going on with your company in specific, what's going on in that industry, and then obviously macro events can affect if there's a major change. So it's important to bear that in mind as we see these dramatic moves, right? If you hold stock ticker any, it was up 81% in 3 days. I mean, these are the types of moves that we can get in the Bitcoin miners. And I will tell you, in my personal opinion, for the vast majority of these stocks, they are not done running yet. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to run straight up in a straight line. You may see any pull back after an 81% surge, or you may see them continue. Okay, this is a chart that was updated as of last Friday, so it does not include the last 3 days, but I want to keep things in perspective. Most of these Bitcoin mining companies, you're going to see, starting with DigiHost, up 294%. From there up, these stocks are up 300, 400, 500%. Core's up over 800%, right? Bitfarms is down 8% this week, but it's up 575% year to date in the year 2023. So by the way, this is a chart from January 1st until December 15th. So that's the first 11 and a half months of the year. We're almost at the end of the year here. So you can see the Bitcoin miners have made tremendous moves this year, despite the fact that in the middle of the year, there was a 3.5 or 4 month window of time where they struggled. It was frustrating. I know a lot of people got washed out of these stocks in that period of time. We did an update every single week on this chart to take a look at what was going on. And now we're starting to see a lot of the Bitcoin miners do what my expectation has always been, is they would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3x leverage on Bitcoin itself. So as of last Friday, Bitcoin was up 155%, and you can see a lot of these are now acting like the 3x leverage that I expect them to be. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be that every day. There's going to be periods of time where they underperform that. There's going to be periods of time where they outperform that. It's also important to remember leverage means to the upside and the downside. So as Bitcoin is going down, we saw these were leveraged plays to the downside. They got decimated much more than even Bitcoin did during the crypto winter. So we are now on the other side of that. I think everybody can agree we're now in the crypto spring, and it has been a spectacular spring. You'll see year to date as of Friday, Bitcoin was up 155%. So 2023 is going to go down as a very good year for Bitcoin. That's a big move to the upside. It would be my personal expectation that Bitcoin has a better year in 2024 and 2025. Obviously, this is not financial advice, and there's a lot of things that can end up impacting that. But typically, historically, somewhere in 2024 or 2025 would be the Bitcoin summer. So I like to look at this chart big picture, taking a step back and see that, even though we've had a nice run up, when we take a look at the Bitcoin chart itself, you're going to see, I think there's a lot of room left to the upside. Having said that, pullbacks in the Bitcoin space are a fact of life. We already had 20% pullbacks in the year 2023, which was a year Bitcoin ran up 155%. So always be careful. Like I talked about earlier, these are extremely, extremely volatile stocks. Bitcoin is a volatile asset. The cryptocurrency world is very volatile. And of course, the Bitcoin miners are a leveraged play on a volatile asset. So it's important to bear that in mind. Okay, now I just want to quickly talk about what I alluded to. I'm calling this the $1 billion club. So I want to show you guys a chart from February of 2023. That was earlier this year, near the beginning of this year. This was the market cap of each of the Bitcoin mining companies that we follow on this channel. Now, the one that you're going to see is missing is Bitdeer, because they were not yet a publicly traded company at that point. But you're going to see all the Bitcoin mining companies. There was not one of them that had a market cap of $1 billion in February of 2023. And remember, from late December through early February, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners had already had a very nice run up. So these are already dramatically higher than they were a month or a month and a half earlier. But I go to this one because still, even as of February 10th, not one Bitcoin miner had a $1 billion market cap or more. Riot was then in first place, significantly ahead of Marathon at $922 million. Marathon in second place at $692 million. And then it dropped off all the way. The third highest Bitcoin mining market cap was Cypher at $374 million. Everything else was below that. You can see most of these were $100 million or less. So fast forward to today, and I just want to go through where some of these stocks have gone. Coming into the day, Marathon's market cap was at $4.9 billion. Remember, this was a $600 million market cap company in February of 2023. So it looks like if things hold today, they're going to go over $5 billion market cap today. And by the way, that still is not back to the peak of where they were in the previous bull market. So they're still not even back to where they started. and we obviously have this bull market ahead of us. Okay, then we go to Riot. So Riot, which at the beginning of the year was in first place, is now in second place, and they're now over $1.5 billion behind Marathon. Just about a month ago, they were ahead of Marathon in market cap. So Marathon really has had a gigantic run. But even in that time, Riot has had a nice run as well. They're at just about $3.4 billion, again, up from under $1 billion at the beginning of the year. If we go back and take a look at this chart, CleanSpark was at $231 million market cap in February of this year. They are now at $1.9 billion. Just a few days ago, they were over $2 billion. If they have a decent day today, they will probably go back over $2 billion, and that's from $230 million. So this stock has had a tremendous year. On Hut 8, I had to go to NASDAQ.com because they had a merger of equals and they are now a new company. Almost every single website on the internet has their market cap wrong. So I would caution everybody, be careful, do your own due diligence, and take a look and understand what the real market cap of this company is, because the numbers are all over the place. For some reason, a lot of these websites say that their market cap is $2.5 billion or $3 billion. I've seen other websites that have them at $500 million, but the reality is NASDAQ.com is pretty close here. You'll see they have a market cap of about $1.1 billion, which makes sense. They're trading at around $12 a share, just actually under $13 a share, and they have just about 88 million shares. So if you do the math, you'll see they're just somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.1 billion. So this is another one in the billion-dollar club. If we go back to the beginning of the year, this was a $330 million market cap. So they've taken the run. This is almost a quadruple in market cap for them. Okay, next is Cipher Mining. So technically, pre-market, they're at $984 million, according to Yahoo Finance. Now, they are up 10% in pre-market, so that would already put them back over $1 billion. So Cipher was at $374 million back in February. This would put them over $1 billion today. So that is the fifth one of these companies that has moved over $1 billion in market cap, when there was zero of these companies back in February of this year. There's a few more that are in striking distance, so I think several more of these companies will move to over $1 billion market cap sometime, in the next short period of time, whether it's 30 days or 90 days. You're going to see BitDeer is over $900 million market cap, so they're in striking distance. Now, this is their first year trading as a public company, so they didn't even have a market cap. They were not public yet in February when we looked at that chart. Bitfarms is just under $900 million. They were very close to $1 billion a few days ago, so we'll see. It looks like they're on a journey, maybe within the next couple of weeks. They're really only one good day away from getting up to $1 billion, so it looks like Bitfarms is on its way to joining the $1 billion club. So that would make 7 companies over $1 billion, where there were 0 companies over $1 billion. If we take a look at this, I think there's a few more companies that will join the $1 billion club sometime in the year 2024. So this is not financial advice, but I'm going to name a few names of companies that I feel have a very good chance of getting over $1 billion in the year 2024. I think Hive, which was at $246 million, they have not moved very much so far this year. I think they're due for a run. I think they stand a legitimate chance of getting to $1 billion. Again, please, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy Hive. We don't tell you to buy or sell anything on this channel. I'm just providing information, so please do your own due diligence. Iris Energy, which was at $97 million back in February. I think they have a very legitimate chance of getting over $1 billion in the year 2024. So that's just to name a couple. There's a lot of other stocks on this list. Now, maybe these don't get to $1 billion, but there's the potential for a lot of upside in these companies from here, even though they have had these gigantic runs. One more thing on this year-to-date chart. So as of last Friday, there were still 3 companies that were in the red year-to-date, meaning they were down from the beginning of the year. In the period of time where Bitcoin was up 155%. Eni was down 26%. Remember, they were up 81% this week. And Mawson was up 57% this week in the first 3 days. So that takes these two now out of the red for the year. So the 2 worst performing stocks of the year are the two best performing stocks of this week. That gets them out of the red. Stronghold is now out of the red. So if everything holds to the end of the week, as of the end of the week, there will be no more Bitcoin miners that are down in the year 2024. Now, still, a lot of these are lagging Bitcoin's performance dramatically. So if you believe in some of these companies, say an Argo blockchain or Agree or a Stronghold, Mawson or any, these companies are still drastically lagging Bitcoin's performance. And again, if they perform well, if they do what they're supposed to do, they should be a leveraged play on Bitcoin. So is there room on any of these? I'm fairly skeptical on all the companies that I just named. But again, you guys need to do your own due diligence. The purpose of these charts is to look for opportunities. So, we've seen so many times companies that were lagging Bitcoin's performance this year jump way ahead of them over the last several months. So are there more to come? Entirely possible. I want to take a quick look at the Bitcoin 1-day chart and 1-week chart to finish this out, because you're going to see, back on December 8th, Bitcoin had a daily candle that closed at $44,192. So that is the highest daily candle close of the year. You can see we've candle wicked above that yesterday. We've also candle wicked up to that so far already today, this morning. So what I'm looking for is, can we have a daily candle that closes above this previous high from just a few weeks ago? We've had a few weeks of consolidation here since then. So are we ready to break through here and take the next run up in Bitcoin? So I have had a price target in mind. For me, this was a year-end price target, but I do think it's getting more and more likely that this could be a January price target. So you see, I have a line at about 48,200. I think that's the next stop for Bitcoin. So as of right now, as I'm making this video, we're just almost exactly 10% away from that. So we could possibly run up to that by the end of the year. That's starting to not be much time. We only have about 10 days left to get there. Bitcoin is certainly capable of doing that. The other thing I would caution everybody is, I have been saying, although I don't expect it at this point, it's becoming less and less likely. There is a line down here, a purple line at around 37,800, so just under 38,000. Bitcoin did run into some resistance for a few weeks there. So once we crossed through that, we had a big run up. It is very common to retest lines of resistance and form them as lines of support. We have not done that in a long time. We seem to just be moving up and up and up, but it's certainly not out of the question. If we were to go back and retest that line, at this point, that would be a 13% move to the downside from where we are right now. So I just like to mention that, because that would be more typically what Bitcoin tends to do. However, it does seem like, for a lot of macro reasons, we may not do that this time. We may just continue to head up for now. Now, if we do and we get to 48,000, I'm not saying we're going to head up in a straight line forever. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. At some point, Bitcoin does get these pullbacks. Bitcoin does retest lines of support. Somewhere in the next 30 or 60 days, we will have a pullback. It could be anywhere as small as 10%. It could be 20 to 25%. So I'm just saying, be careful of that, and don't panic in the event that that happens, because we've already seen that happen 3 times just this year. Last chart I want to look at is, this is Bitcoin on the 1 week. Remember, we had 8 straight weeks of green candles. We had a gigantic rally in Bitcoin. We had last week was a red candle, so we had 1 candle to break that streak. But now, and there's still a lot of time left in this week, but it looks like this week could be a very strong green candle. We see where we want to get on the daily time frame. We see where we're hoping to get on the weekly time frame. So there's a couple of really short-term price targets for you. I think if we can reach those, then I think it becomes increasingly more likely that we get that next run up to $48,000. So we're going to have to keep our eye on this. And again, the main theme of this is there's an awful lot of volatility going on. So try not to let that impact your minute-to-minute or day-to-day decision-making process. And try not to let that throw you off of whatever your particular game plan is. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to smash the like button. And of course, if you enjoyed this content and you want to help the channel, you can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.